What's going on, guys? War Brothers Collectibles here. Welcome back to another video. So it's been about 9 or 10 months since I've done an entire Blu-ray collection video, so I thought let's do a new one today for 2026. I'm not going to include any of the anime stuff because that collection has not really changed. Nothing's really been new and added to the anime collection. So I'll leave a link in the description down below to that video if you guys are interested and you want to see the anime collection. So without further ado, let's check out some Blu-rays. So like I always say, guys, this is in no particular order, so let's begin. So first off, of course, I have the two Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies. I absolutely love these movies. They're some of my favourites. The second one has grown on me in the past year or so, but I've always loved the first one. That has been an absolute favourite of mine since I was a child. Love this movie. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the new Amazon series with Sophie Turner. Then we have Smile, which was okay. It's not a bad film, but I've not seen the sequel yet, which I look forward to doing at some point. Next we have Scream 4, 5 and 6 on Blu-ray. Big fan of the Scream movies. My least favourite was actually this one, number 6. When it's in New York City. This is probably my least favourite, and I don't return to this one as much as the other films. But the Scream series on a whole is great. It's a great series of slasher movies. They're just so clever and really well written. Cannot wait for the next film when Sidney Prescott returns. Halloween 4 and 5, some of my favourite movies in the entire Halloween series. Love these movies. Big fan of Danielle Harris and Donald Pleasance in these movies. They do an amazing job. And yeah, I absolutely love these ones. I watch these, probably the most out of all of them, to be honest. The Complete Adventures of Indiana Jones on Blu-ray. Now, I have no intention of buying Kingdom of the Crystal Skull on 4K. I own all the others on 4K, but I have no intention of buying Crystal Skull, so I'm just more than happy to keep the Blu-ray, which is in this box set. But what is cool about this box set, guys, is I just love the artwork on the inside. I think it's absolutely amazing, and you get that for all of the films. There's Last Crusade there, and where is Crystal Skull? Crystal Skull on the back there. So yeah, absolutely love the artwork on this, and it is a great set as well. It's got really nothing new for the bonus features as far as I can tell from the old DVD box set. But these are really great on Blu-ray, and it's just a nice keepsake because I have no desire to upgrade Crystal Skull to 4K. Karate Kid with Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. I wasn't really a fan of the new film, Karate Kid Legends. I thought they could have done so much more with that movie than they did. But as far as remakes go, this one was alright. I used to enjoy this one back in the day. I'll admit, I've not seen it for a number of years now, but I didn't mind it. I'm always up for Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan is just such an amazing, actor, great stuntman, whatever he is, he's so funny. Everybody loves Jackie Chan. And he is great in this film as the Mr. Miyagi or Mr. Han mentor figure. So yeah, it's as far as remakes go, it's not too bad. It's just a shame that they never really followed it up with the sequel, which I think would have been kind of nice. Alita Battle Angel, love this movie, and I'm a big fan of the anime as well, and the manga. I'm really wanting a sequel to this because it left it so open-ended, setting it up right up for the sequel that we haven't got yet. So I believe it's still in production and it is going to happen, but by that point, will the fan base still be there in anticipation for the sequel? I'm not sure, but great film nonetheless. Great visuals, and it's a great story. I really enjoyed this one a lot. Jaws: The Revenge, a guilty pleasure. Now, why have I got this on Blu-ray? It's one out of all the sequels. This is the one I actually enjoy the most. On paper it is a terrible film, but I just enjoy it. I don't know what it is about it. I just find it highly entertaining, and I just love the story that Michael Caine hated doing this movie. He only did it for his $1 million paycheck, and then he bought his mother a house after doing this film, which I think is quite nice. But this looks absolutely stunning on Blu-ray. It looks absolutely gorgeous. All the daytime scenes in the Bahamas, it looks absolutely beautiful here on Blu-ray. So yeah, I don't mind this one too much. I didn't really care for Jaws 2 and 3, unfortunately. But Jaws: The Revenge, I actually really don't mind this one. A Night to Remember. This is the most well-known sort of Titanic retelling, apart from the James Cameron film. And this is interesting because it shows the ship going down in one piece. It doesn't show the break of the ship, but um, it wasn't confirmed at the time when this film was made. I think this was made in the 1950s. But yeah, great film. Heart wrenching, heartbreaking, a real tearjerker. Really emotional, and it's just as good, or if not better, than the James Cameron version. So this is definitely worth watching if you're really into Titanic and wanting to know the history and wanting to know people's stories on the ship and what happened. It follows mainly one of the officers, Charles Lightoller, um, played by Kenneth More, I think. Yeah, Kenneth More. Um, but it is really really well done for its day. It is really good. And I return to this one quite often, to be honest, because I'm just so enthralled by the whole legend and story of Titanic. It's definitely a deep interest of mine and a study piece of mine. I love the whole history of Titanic and learning everything I can about it. So yeah, this is a really good film. The Alien quadrilogy, or this is the Alien anthology on Blu-ray. This is just the first four films up to Alien, and then through to Resurrection. It's got all the bonus features on, and every cut of every Alien film that you could imagine. The director's cuts, the special editions, the assembly versions. Great series, obviously, of science fiction films. Love these Alien movies. I do want 20th Century Fox to eventually release a 4K of Alien 3. I don't know if it's something on the cards at 20th Century Fox, but here's hoping to the future that we get the last two Alien movies on 4K. Kingsman collection is just the first two movies. These are great, really spy movies, really comic book kind of movies. These are really fun. THX 1138, this is probably my latest Blu-ray purchase. It's George Lucas's first film based on his student film. I don't even know what to say about this one. You would not think that the man who created Star Wars made this film. It's really like, I can't even describe it. It is very strange. It's very weird, and it's kind of really hard to sit through. Not in terms of the content or anything, just its pacing, and nothing too much exciting even happened. It's a social science, abstract cinema, art house film, whatever you want to call it. It's not your mainstream Hollywood film that George Lucas became known for with Star Wars. It's definitely a unique piece, and this is the director's cut. This is George Lucas' preferred version with like added special effects, like he did with Star Wars. But Robert Duvall and Donald Pleasence, who was really looking forward to seeing in this film, and I really need to watch it again because I was kind of distracted while I was watching it, and it's a film that you really need to like focus and pay attention to. That's what I thought anyway. Just everything from the opening title sequence, all the way through to its abrupt ending. I just think it is it's a very strange film, and it's certainly not for everyone. I've not seen American Graffiti as of making this video yet. That is one I do want to watch. But THX 1138, I'd say I was a little disappointed, but I knew it was not that great of a film anyway from everything that I've read and videos that I've watched on it. It is certainly, you wouldn't think George Lucas made this film. It's really out there. It's really strange. We've got the first two Into the Spider-Verse movies. I only watched these within the last year, and I really enjoy these movies. They're really good watches. They're really fun. If you want a different take on Spider-Man, watch these movies. The animation is really unique. So, they are definitely worth watching. They are highly entertaining, and you get like all incarnations of Spider-Man throughout the Spider-Verse. So these are really fun movies. Some more Marvel films now. This is Logan. This is probably one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. This includes the noir version, which is obviously in black and white, because it was known for having that kind of noir style, and people said, oh, what about a noir version? And it actually works really well. I've watched both versions in colour and noir. And it's just a great movie based on the comic Old Man Logan, which is one of my, well, not based on it, it takes inspiration from it, because it is quite different. And just takes certain elements from Old Man Logan. But, great film, brutal film, but, highly entertaining, action-packed throughout. Patrick Stewart is back as Charles Xavier, and Hugh Jackman, of course, as Logan, Wolverine, and this is a great film. the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. As you can see, I've not even opened No Way Home yet. I have seen this film. I've seen it in the cinema, but I picked this one up within the last year actually for $6.99. So we're still yet to watch this film again. Suicide Squad. Now I enjoyed this one. I know a lot of people didn't like it at the time, but I really enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it highly entertaining, and yeah, I don't mind this one at all. Wonder Woman, probably one of my favorite DC movies of all time. Love it. I wasn't a fan of the sequel, unfortunately, Wonder Woman 1984, but this one is really good. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. I'm a huge fan of these films. So I grew up with Tobey Maguire, but when these came out, I think I was at the end of high school, starting college. Um, but this to me was like straight back to the comics. This was what Spider-Man was all about, and I did really enjoy these at the time. But it's just a shame that part two, sets up a whole universe, and you were going to do the Sinister Six and things like that, but it just never really went anywhere because obviously they rebooted the series again with Tom Holland. But these are another take on Spider-Man, which they're highly entertaining. I enjoy these films. The Man with No Name trilogy, which is a fistful of dollars for a few dollars more, and The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. I recently, within the last year, of course, bought all these on 4K. So the only reason I've got this is to watch it in different rooms of the house where there's a Blu-ray player. But love this Dollars trilogy. It's one of my favorite trilogies of all time, if not one of the best trilogies ever made. It's certainly way up there. But yeah, great series of spaghetti westerns. If you've not seen them, or you're curious about getting into the western and the spaghetti western genre, this is a good starting point. These are great movies. Die Hard quadrilogy. Still want Die with a Vengeance on 4K because I think that would be absolutely amazing. The Pacific. This is the sequel, the sort of sister series to Band of Brothers, and then they've done Masters of the Air, I think it's called. This is probably my favourite out of Band of Brothers and The Pacific. I'm not seeing Masters of the Air as of making this video, but a great series, follows the US Marine Corps in World War II in the Pacific theatre of war fighting the Japanese, and it's really well done. Of course, Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg produced, so you can only imagine the production values are way up there, and it is really well done. And yeah, great series. Black Swan. I've not watched this one for a while, but I always remember really enjoying this one. It's really weird and kind of dark, but I'm a big fan of Natalie Portman, so yeah, it's a really good one. This Sin City 1 and 2. We studied the Sin City films in college. So I've watched these films quite a lot. I've not seen the second one as much, but Sin City, the first film. I've read all the comics as well. Really well done film. As I say, we studied it, so I've probably seen it more times than most people really have. Well, I've watched it a lot, let's say the least. I've watched it many times. We had to do essays on it and do study pieces on it and analysis and things like that. I think we did a comparison piece to this and Pulp Fiction. But yeah, I'd like to watch these ones again. These are good comic book movies. Barbie. Now this was bought for my partner. I've only watched this once, but I remember enjoying it when I seen it. I can imagine it looks really great on 4K, but the Blu-ray was good nonetheless. But this is another one that I need to actually re-watch at some point. Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi directs. Great film. It's about this young boy in Nazi Germany, and he joins the Hitler Youth, and it's really heartwarming, and it's a story of innocence, and his mother harbors a Jew, hides a Jew from being captured, and then he ends up finding her, befriends her, falls in love with her, and it's just a really nice film, in terms, although the context surrounding it is of course not a good thing, but the film is really well done. It's a really sweet film, a tale of innocence during the war, and yeah, it's a really great film. It's really well done. The children in this film, the actors, do a really great job. The young lad who plays Jojo does an amazing job, and this is a great film. So if you've never seen it and you want something different in the World War II genre, definitely give this one a watch. coming on to a selection of horror movies now. This is an Arrow Video release of the Blu-ray of Carrie. You know, absolute classic City Spacer, you know, horror film, classic, based on the Stephen King novel. Superb film, you know, what can I say about it? It's not been said before a million times. You know, it is brilliant. The tension in this film is absolutely incredible, and Sissy Spacek does such an amazing job. She is absolutely mesmerising to watch in this movie, and I'm a huge fan of the slipcover as well. It is really creepy. So yeah, Carrie, this is probably makes it up there in my top 10 horror movies if I was to make a list. This is the Exorcist anthology. So this is all the films up to from the first film, second film, third film, and then the two prequels that were made. You know, it's a nice little box set to have them all in one thing, and it's really slimlined as well, so fits on a shelf nice and easily, doesn't take up too much room. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of these. You know, I wasn't really that big on Exorcist 3, but as you guys know, I really enjoy Exorcist 2, The Heretic. I know it's regarded as one of the worst movies of all time, but I find something in it that I enjoy. I really enjoy the relationship between Reagan and Father Lamont, which is Richard Burton and Linda Blair. You know, they had a great relationship off screen as well. You know, she looked up to him as kind of like a mentor figure, and they got on really well, and you know, struck up a good friendship. And you know, Richard Burton taught her so much in the performing arts, so I think that's really a nice kind of story to come from that film. And you know, Linda Blair always said, you know, if you can learn from the best, you know, take every advantage of that, because the lessons that you learn are just you carry them with you for the rest of your career, through the rest of your life. And yeah, that's what I take from that film. You know, I just really love their on-screen relationship, and just knowing how well they got on off the screen as well. Really means a lot. So yeah, I enjoy it. I'm also a fan of the prequels. I probably prefer Exorcist the Beginning over Dominion, but that's just me. And then I've got two individual releases. This is the Arrow Video release of Exorcist 2, The Heretic, and then Exorcist 3. You know, both contain two different versions of the film. It's down to everyone's personal preference which one they enjoy. I'm not really a fan of the Legion director's cut. I'm perfectly fine with the theatrical cut on this. And then I'm perfectly happy with the original premiere version of this over the international version. I think the international version, that was just edited way too much, and too much was cut out, and things weren't really explained, and the story didn't flow as well as I thought in the original premiere version. So, but it's just interesting to see the different cuts, and you know, everyone has their own opinions on which one they like best. But it's just interesting to see two different takes on each of these movies. And they're also awesome cover arts as well. You know, I really enjoy these, and I think they are reversible as well with every Arrow Video release. With the original poster art, but it also has the newly commissioned artwork as well. So, yeah, that is the Exorcist 2 and 3 from Arrow Video. This one is a fairly recent purchase. I bought this last Halloween. This is the Friday the 13th complete box set. Well, I say complete box set. It goes from the first film up to part 8, which is Jason Takes Manhattan. It's just nice again to have all these in one box set, you know, because a lot of the old DVDs were so hard to get hold of, and they went out of print, and or they were so just hard to find. And then it's just, as I say, it's just nice to have them in a nice slimlined box set. I think as the series goes on in this, it combines two films to one disc, which is kind of nice. You can just select which one you want, and instead of swapping discs. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of these movies. I'm probably my second favourite slasher series. You know, Halloween is obviously my favourite. Then Friday the 13th, then Nightmare on Elm Street is probably my least favourite series in terms of like classic 80s slasher. But I actually took a break from horror movies after Halloween, and I've not watched a horror movie since Halloween last year. So maybe sometime this year I'll get back into watching these. But yeah, it's just nice to have them all in one big box set. Well, I say big box set, a nice little slimline box set that fits on the shelf. Then we have War of the Planet of the Apes. Great film, you know, I absolutely love this one. You know, the special effects are just incredible. And Andy Serkis as Caesar does an incredible job once again. I've not seen the new film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but I'm planning on watching that sometime in the very near future. But you know, all the Planet of the Apes films are great. I enjoy the entire series, you know, and these newer ones are, you know, no exception. You know, they are still really great science fiction films. grudge match. This is basically Rocky versus Raging Bull. It's Robert De Niro versus Sylvester Stallone, in kind of like a comedy, like sports comedy, tribute kind of thing. But it is really well done. It's really funny as well. I think Alan Arkin is in it. And yeah, he is Alan Arkin, and he's really funny in it. I think he plays Sylvester Stallone's trainer, and there's a lot of references to both their boxing films, but kind of done in a comedic way. But this one is really enjoyable. And then I have Rambo: Last Blood. I am not really a fan of this one. Like, it's probably my least favorite Rambo film. This was bought for me as a Christmas present a number of years ago. Haven't missed it in the cinema. I just think it goes too far in so many places. It's unnecessary, and I think the story's not very good, and I think it deals with kind of horrible themes, and then it just goes against everything that Rambo is, in my opinion. Rambo fights for king and country because he's got no choice. Nobody else does it. He's the best. But this is just like, it's like Taken meets Home Alone. And it just doesn't really work for a Rambo film. I think, although Rambo 4 had its horrible moments as well, felt more like Rambo than this film did. So if this is going to be the last one in the series, which it probably is, I was really disappointed with this, to be honest. I'm going to show these two together. This is Kickboxer with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and then the remake, Kickboxer Vengeance. This is the one where Van Damme plays the mentor this time. As far as remakes go, it's really well done. It is really enjoyable, but the original Kickboxer is probably one of my favourite films, certainly my favourite Van Damme film. It's one of the first films I ever saw of Van Damme, and I was completely blown away by the choreography, the violence, and the his martial arts capabilities, which still are incredible to this day. So yeah, just highly entertaining, a little bit cheesy, but highly entertaining nonetheless. Great music. And yeah, these are just good for a quick watch, have some fun, have a couple of beers, throw Kickboxer on. And yeah, these are just highly entertaining. Pulp Fiction, probably my favourite Tarantino film of all time. I had to actually, again, study this in college, in film studies. So I've watched this film so many times. And we had to do, essays on it, and, as I say, micro analysis, and comparing it to SimCity as well. I can't remember the topic of the assignment. I don't know if it was, I really can't remember. I think it was crime or something. Probably was like crime films, but yeah, great film. Absolute classic Tarantino. Probably my second favorite Tarantino film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Really well shot, really well made, beautiful to look at, and the performance in this movie, the performances are absolutely amazing. Brad Pitt and Leo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie, just standout job in this. They're all so amazing in this film. I think the ending, in my opinion, is a little bit in poor taste. Really, considering what happened in real life. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's such a real shame and a real sad story that I think this was kind of done in poor taste in this film. But that ending of this film aside, it is a great film. So if you enjoy like old school Hollywood and the golden age, the old school Hollywood, like where Bruce Lee was there and doing the Green Hornet and all the kind of 60s, end of the 60s kind of thing, it'll be really nostalgic for you. And it's, as I say, it's really well made. I think it won an Oscar for production design, actually. It's so I can remember, don't quote me on that, but great film. Just going to quickly go through some of these. We have Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn for the Planet of the Apes, and I picked this up actually back in the day for $4.99 with any purchase. Dunkirk, I saw this film in the cinema and then just picked up the Blu-ray, but I really need to watch this film again. I can't really remember. I know the story of Dunkirk, obviously, but I can't really remember this film, like what happens, or the way this film portrays it happening, should I say. Katy Perry, The Prismatic Tour live. As I said, I've not even opened this. I just picked this up because I actually went to this concert, and I just wanted to, have a physical copy of it, for the memories. But yeah, I was a big fan of Katy Perry back in the day. Not so much anymore, But as I said, I've never even opened this, but it's a nice little keepsake that I'll probably watch one day, who knows. Dracula, the Prince of Darkness. Huge fan of Christopher Lee as Dracula. This is absolute classic Hammer horror. This is the entire James Bond collection on Blu-ray. I'm obviously a big James Bond fan, and I just want them to eventually release all of them on 4K. They did a Sean Connery set last year, and I recently just picked up Doctor No on 4K. I didn't buy the entire box set. But I'm looking forward to whenever they get to do a Roger Moore 4K box set, and then Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan. So, huge James Bond fan. It's just nice to have them all in one big box set. Next we have Fury with Brad Pitt. Was this the Saving Private Ryan, the one that would beat Saving Private Ryan? No, but I don't think anything will ever beat that film, but it is a great World War II film nonetheless. Again, this was in no particular order, but it should have been with the other Exorcist films. This is The Exorcist the Believer. This is the new film they did of kind of like a planned trilogy, but now they're apparently reworking what they're actually going to do. But I enjoyed this one. I saw it in cinemas, and I know it was hated by the fans, but I found something that I enjoyed in it, so I picked it up on the Blu-ray, and I've watched it since the cinema, and I don't mind this one. Ellen Burstyn, I think that's her name. Yeah, Ellen Burstyn, the mother from the original film. She's back in this, and she just has fun with it, I think. She got a big paycheck, I believe, that I just hope she, enjoys it. The Blumhouse Halloween trilogy with Halloween, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. A lot of people don't like these, but I think it's a great trilogy, and I'm obviously a huge fan of the Halloween series, so I really enjoyed these ones. Controversially, though, as you may already know on this channel, one of my favourites is actually Halloween Ends. We're coming to the end now, guys, so there's only a few more to go, so if you want to grab a drink and pause it at this point, feel free to do so. Grab your refreshment. But next up we have John Carpenter's classic Halloween. Still waiting for the Arrow Video to do all the Halloweens on 4K. I think that would be absolutely amazing. But yeah, it's probably my favourite horror movie of all time. Love this film, watch it every single year on Halloween, or try to. Just classic, super low budget. Jamie Lee Curtis, just brilliant film, so suspenseful, really well made. And so if you've never seen this, this is one of the greatest horror movies, or certainly greatest slasher movies ever made. Insidious 2, 3 and 4. Big fan of the Insidious films. I don't know why I've never bought the first one on Blu-ray. I think that I have that on standard DVD. But it was nice to have the rest of the set. I wasn't a fan of the new film, The Insidious The Red Door, so I have no intention of actually buying that on any physical media. But I enjoy these ones. It's a really suspenseful, really well done horror series. It was certainly a breath of fresh air when these first came out. They did something different, something that I had certainly never seen before. So it was a nice change to actually get these kind of movies. Terminator 2, again, no intention of buying it on 4K, but obviously one of the greatest sequels of all time. This contains the special extended version with an alternate ending, which shows Sarah Connor as an old woman. Judgment Day never happened, and John Connor is now a member of the US Senate. That's how he leads the human resistance in like that kind of different way. Which obviously I prefer that ending, but it never left it open for a sequel, so I understand why they scrapped that ending and just did the normal ending. But what can I say? Everyone's seen Terminator 2, just brilliant, classic, excellent. The stunt work, the action, the special effects, everything about this film's amazing. So I'm assuming you've already seen it. If not, watch Terminator 2 tonight because it is amazing. Again, one of my most recent purchases, the Elisa Vikander Tomb Raider. Not really a big fan of this one. It doesn't really do anything for me. I prefer the Angelina Jolie films, but I've picked this up for £2 just to give it another watch. So we've seen them all ready for the new Sophie Turner series. We have Robert Pattinson's The Batman. I really enjoyed this one. It is a really long film, so it's certainly not one that you can watch all the time. But I enjoyed his performance as Batman, and this film, it's quite good. Birds of Prey. I love Margaret Robbie as Harley Quinn. She does an absolute, amazing job. She is Harley Quinn, and highly entertaining. Love this movie. It's just really good. We watch this one all the time. I'm a huge fan of this movie. The Planet of the Apes box set. This goes from the original film up to Battle for the Planet of the Apes. My favourite is probably Escape from the Planet of the Apes and then Conquest. And they are my favourites of the original series, but these are really great on Blu-ray and they're really great to have. I don't know if these are available on 4K because these would actually probably be amazing. But yeah, huge fan of the Planet of the Apes series. I watch them quite often, to be honest. They're highly entertaining and really raise those kind of questions about humanity's future, which is always fascinating. I don't know why this wasn't with the other Tom Holland Spider-Mans, but this is the first one, Spider-Man The Homecoming. It's not my favourite, but we watched it and it's still enjoyable. But I prefer the second and third one that he did over this one. But yeah, it's not too bad. Joaquin Phoenix, Joker, absolutely adore this film. It's one of a kind film. It's amazing. As you can say, all those 5 stars on the back are totally worth it. I probably watch this film every day during the COVID lockdown. I just love it that much. I've not watched it again for maybe 1 or 2 years now, but certainly an amazing film. Really well done. Joaquin Phoenix is absolutely outstanding. And yeah, if you've never seen it, it's certainly a different take on the Joker mythology, but it's definitely worth watching. I've not seen the sequel yet because obviously I've heard terrible things about it. But this first one is one of a kind. It's absolutely incredible. Batman the Killing Joke. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Batman the Killing Joke comic book or the graphic novel. So when this film was coming out, I was super excited to watch it. But they add kind of a prologue onto it featuring Batgirl. And that's meant to because what happens in the Killing Joke, something happens to Batgirl, so they add kind of that prologue on to make you feel more emotion, I suppose, towards the character, and it goes more into her relationship with Batman, but it just feels so tacked on to the beginning of the film, and then it just kind of cuts, then an entirely different story, which is the Killing Joke, starts. So it doesn't really feel necessary, and I know a lot of the fans and critics didn't deem it necessary at the time. Mark Hamill is back as the voice of the Joker, which was a welcome return. But yeah, it's okay the way as a comic book adaptation, but it certainly could have been way better. But the animation's good. I really do. As a visual film, it is really well done. Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2, and I'm a huge fan of that graphic novel as well. And these are really cool, really dark, really violent, as the comic book is itself. Really well animated. I love the Peter Weller as the voice of Bruce Wayne and Batman. I think he does a great job. And yeah, I don't mind these films. These are really good Batman adventures. Coming on to the last few now, we have the Black Panther, the Suicide Squad. I actually probably prefer the other Suicide Squad to this one, but yeah, I didn't mind this one. Again, Margaret Robbie is back as Harley Quinn, so that's always a good thing. And then we have the Dark Knight trilogy. Probably my favourite is probably Batman Begins, and then I enjoy the Dark Knight Rises, because I enjoy all of these films, but they're my favourites of the Dark Knight trilogy. Christian Bale, does an amazing job, really well directed by Christopher Nolan. Great villains in all of them, highly entertaining, and it's certainly a more darker, serious return to form for Batman with the more campy, lighter tone of Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, of course. These are dark and serious and gritty crime thrillers with kind of Batman attached to it. So yeah, this is an amazing trilogy. And I really enjoy these ones a lot. I've seen these so many times over the years. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. I do hope you've had a good time looking at my Blu-ray collection for 2026. And there's been a couple of new titles, as I say, but nothing too major, as I'm more into buying 4Ks now. But I'll always keep buying Blu-rays. That is my standard format. As I say, if something's not quite up to the scratch or the standard of buying it on 4K, I'll always buy the Blu-ray, certainly over a DVD. I still have a good time buying Blu-rays. But there's only so much you can do because, with terms of shelf space and things like that, you've always got to try and cut down and get rid of things you don't watch anymore, and duplicates, and just really kind of be brutal with your selection on the shelf. Obviously, you can't have everything. I mean, some people do, but I certainly am quickly running out of space with all the 4Ks with that collection growing as well. So I really have to be selective now of what I actually purchase. But yeah, so I hope you've had a good time watching this video, guys. If you like it, give this video a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to the channel. And yeah, I will see you soon in more videos. Take care.